Welcome back to the Brief and Debrief Podcast, where we break it down so we can build it back better. How you doing, everyone? I'm your host, EJ Wood, and today we're tackling something that can transform your whole leadership journey. It's the 3 pillars of my tested leadership. These aren't theoretical concepts I've built from a textbook. These have been refined, and these principles have been built over 15 years of military service. So keeping with our structure, I want to go ahead and hit our mission objective for today. Today's mission is to introduce you to the 3 foundational pillars of leadership that I've tested over these last 15 years. And I'm here to tell you that they're not just theories. They're pressure-proven principles that we can start implementing today. And I need you to take some of that foundation that we learned on our last episode, transfer it today so we can keep building day on, day on, day on. Let's move on to our tactical objectives. Just like before, we're going to have 3 that we want to really focus and hone in on today. Our 3 tactical objectives, starting with number 1. I want you to understand how the 3 pillars of leadership work together to create a strong leadership foundation. I need us to create that foundation because without that foundation, everything crumbles and we're just not going to be able to perform when our team needs us most. Moving on to our second tactical objective. Learn one actionable technique from each pillar that you can implement immediately. And then our last one is going to be to identify which pillar needs the most attention in our current role. We're going to go ahead using that B3 framework, our break, build, better. Identify that first, that priority of our leadership pillars, that one that needs the most work, and that's the one we're going to attack directly through this episode and directly after. So going into our execute phase, pillar 1, vision and direction. That's where we're going to start. So I want you to think of this just like any commercial flight you might get on, any military flight. They have to file a flight plan. Without a flight plan, they don't know where they're going and they're just kind of spinning and burning holes in the sky. That's the same with your leadership journey. We must have vision and direction where we and our team need to go. During combat, success only comes when every team member understands exactly what needs to happen and why it needs to happen. Right? So now we kind of understand what vision and direction is. We're going to go ahead and we're going to work towards our one actionable technique for vision and direction. So we're going to start our next week with what I like to call the 3-3-3 brief. So we're going to start our day off by identifying 3 main objectives. What are the 3 most important things we have to get done? Then I want us to identify 3 potential obstacles. What are those barriers that might get in our way, that might try to defeat us and cause us to not reach the other side? And then I need us to go ahead and identify 3 measures of success. What does success look like for those 3 main objectives? We need to write it down, we need to identify, we need to repeat it to ourselves, and we need to make it real. This should only take you a few minutes, but this right here could transform your team and get them all in alignment starting off the bat. All right, now we're moving on to pillar 2. And this one is something very close to my heart. It's people and trust. People and trust. We got to build relationships with our people so they trust us. Without that, we don't have influence. And without influence, we aren't a leader, right? The second pillar of people and trust, when it comes to aviation, we don't really have an option to trust. We have to. It's our survival. Maintainers fix the aircraft that we fly. So when the pilot goes and gets in that aircraft and takes off, he has to trust that those maintainers did their job and that plane is safe to fly. He has to trust that those air traffic controllers are going to deconflict him from other aircraft on the airfield and in the sky so he's not going to crash. Here's a truth I've learned from the cockpit. Trust compounds with transparency. And when I started openly sharing my own mistakes when we would debrief, I started to transform and I was able to build trust with my team because I started taking accountability. So now moving on to our one actionable technique for people and trust. I want you to implement what I like to call the 2-minute connect. I need you to start every interaction with your team with a genuine 2-minute check-in. Then I need you to go ahead and ask one specific question about a current challenge that individual or your team might be having. And then, just like Simon Sinek likes to say, I need you to be the last to speak. Let everyone share their opinions, their points of view, so that you can take in all that information and you can make the best possible decision for your team. Give them the accountability and the opportunity to provide you with a solution and not just a problem. Moving on to pillar 3, execution and accountability. This is our final pillar, and this is where most leadership falls short. In a lot of military operations, we live by a brief, execute, and debrief formula. No exceptions. And the reason is this rhythm builds an environment of improvement and excellence. The more that we prepare our brief, the better our execution will be, the more flexible we will be to change, and then the more open and accountable we are in debrief, the better you become, right? We like to say our debriefs, we leave ego at the door because we're all here to become better tactically. Our one actionable technique for execution and accountability, I want you to use the 1-1-1 debrief. I need you to go in there and identify one thing that went well. Debriefs aren't just about what we did wrong. We need to reinforce what went right because we need to continue that. Then we need to go and identify one thing we can improve. Nothing is perfect. There's always room for improvement. And so you need to push your ego aside and be willing to critically self-reflect and give yourself feedback on something that did not go right. Or maybe it did go right. It just could have been a little bit better. Then I need us to identify one immediate action step. What can we do right now so when this situation comes back up, we will perform differently? If we do this daily, and it takes, again, just a few minutes, we can build consistent improvement over time, which leads to large-scale improvements. All right, now I want to move to our self-assessment. Let's identify which pillar needs attention the most. I need you to ask yourself some questions, and I need you to be really honest with yourself. So for vision and direction, can you go to your team and have them state what your top priority is right now without a thought? And if the answer is no, then you have a problem with vision and direction, and your team isn't quite sure where they're headed. People and trust. When was the last time someone openly disagreed with you? You need different opinions. You need different perspectives. Just because someone disagrees with you does not mean they dislike you. If everyone is a yes man, you will never be able to improve or become more efficient. Execution and accountability. Do you have a consistent debrief process? Do you have a process that allows you to speak about what went right, what went wrong, and how we can start changing things for the things that did not go right? The pillar that made you think the most out of those questions, that's your starting point. Or what we like to call here, that is your break point. Now let's move on to an implementation guide. Here is your immediate action plan. That one that you hesitated on, that is your pillar to focus on this week. Implement the pillars technique that we went over today in our episode daily. I need you to note the impact after 5 days. So we have to do a little bit of self-reflection and recording here. Remember, becoming a better leader isn't built in a day, but it is built daily. We must work daily to constantly improve. Just like being a parent, there's no handout, there's no step-by-step guide. We will never be an expert. We must constantly be willing to learn and improve to be a better leader. All right, that's our brief for today. Dive deeper into these combat-tested principles. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Until next time, this is EJ Wood reminding you, break it down so we can build it back better. See you guys later.